Have you ever replayed the same conversation in your head over and over again? Maybe someone looked at you strangely, and now you're wondering if they secretly dislike you. Maybe you're trying to make an important decision, but every option feels wrong. Or maybe you're lying awake at 2 in the morning, thinking about something that happened years ago. If any of that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Millions of people struggle with overthinking every single day. And most of them believe the solution is simple. Just think less. But that's actually the problem. You don't stop overthinking by thinking less. You stop overthinking by understanding why your brain does it in the first place. And once you understand that, everything becomes easier. So in this video, we're going to explore why overthinking happens, why it feels impossible to stop, and how you can finally break free from it. Let's begin. Imagine you're walking through a forest thousands of years ago. You hear a noise in the bushes. You immediately stop. Your heart starts beating faster. Your brain begins asking questions. Was that a predator? Should I run? Should I hide? Back then, this kind of thinking helped humans survive. The people who noticed danger survived. The people who ignored danger often didn't. As a result, the human brain evolved into a prediction machine. Its job is to identify potential threats before they happen. The problem is that modern life is very different. Most of us don't spend our days avoiding wild animals. Instead, we worry about emails, relationships, money, school, careers, the future. Your brain still treats these things as threats, and that's where overthinking begins. Your brain isn't trying to hurt you, it's trying to protect you. Unfortunately, it often protects you from problems that don't even exist. Think about the last thing you worried about. How many hours did you spend thinking about it? And how much of what you imagined actually happened? Probably very little. That's because overthinking is often the brain trying to solve imaginary problems. And imaginary problems never have satisfying answers. The more you think, the more questions appear. The more questions appear, the more confused you become. It's a loop, and most people get stuck in it for years. Now, here's the biggest misunderstanding about overthinking. People often say, just stop thinking about it. Sounds simple, but it doesn't work. In fact, it usually makes things worse. Try this. For the next 5 seconds, do not think about a pink elephant. Ready? Go. What happened? You thought about a pink elephant. The harder you try not to think about something, the more your brain focuses on it. Psychologists call this the ironic process effect. When you fight a thought, you give it more attention, and whatever receives attention becomes stronger. This means the goal isn't to eliminate thoughts. The goal is to stop treating every thought like an emergency, because thoughts are not facts. Read that again. Thoughts are not facts. Just because your brain says something doesn't mean it's true. Your brain might say, what if I fail? What if they judge me? What if everything goes wrong? But those are possibilities, not realities. The problem isn't having thoughts. The problem is believing every thought. Imagine your mind is like the weather. Some days are sunny, some days are stormy. You don't panic when clouds appear. You know they'll eventually pass. Thoughts work the same way. A negative thought can appear, but it doesn't have to control your actions. You can simply notice it and move on. One of the biggest reasons people overthink is because they want certainty. They want guarantees. They want to know exactly what will happen before they take action. But life doesn't work that way. You can spend months thinking about a decision and still not know the outcome. You can analyze every possibility and still be surprised. No amount of thinking can eliminate uncertainty. The truth is that certainty doesn't exist. And once you accept that, life becomes much easier. Because instead of waiting until you're 100% sure, you start moving forward anyway. Successful people don't have more certainty than everyone else. They simply take action despite uncertainty. That's a huge difference. Now, let's talk about one of the most effective techniques for reducing overthinking. It's called the 5-minute rule. Whenever you catch yourself overthinking, set a timer for 5 minutes. During those 5 minutes, think as much as you want. Write down every fear, every concern, every possible outcome. Get it all out of your head. Then, when the timer ends, make a decision. Not next week, not tomorrow, right then. Most people spend hours trying to make perfect decisions, but perfect decisions don't exist. There are only decisions, and then there are adjustments. Action creates clarity. Thinking creates more thinking. The longer you wait, the harder things seem. The moment you act, uncertainty begins to disappear. This brings us to another important point. Action is the enemy of overthinking. Think about someone who wants to get fit. One person spends 6 months researching workout plans. Another person starts exercising today. Who learns faster? The person who starts. Because action produces feedback, and feedback creates confidence. Overthinkers often confuse preparation with progress. They believe they're moving forward because they're thinking. But thinking isn't progress. Action is progress. You can spend 3 hours thinking about writing a book, or you can write 1 page. Only one of those moves you closer to your goal. Whenever you find yourself trapped in overthinking, ask a simple question. What is the smallest action I can take right now? Not tomorrow, not next month, right now. Then do it, even if it's tiny. Tiny actions break the cycle. Another thing that fuels overthinking is something called the spotlight effect. This is the tendency to believe that everyone is paying attention to you. You think people notice every mistake, every awkward moment, every flaw. But here's the truth. Most people are too busy thinking about themselves. They're worrying about their own problems, their own mistakes, their own future. That embarrassing thing you said last week, you probably remember it. Everyone else probably forgot. Realizing this is incredibly freeing because it means you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to impress everyone. You just have to live your life. Now let's try a simple exercise. The next time you're overthinking something, ask yourself, what's the worst realistic outcome? Not the most dramatic outcome, the realistic one. Then ask, could I survive it? Most of the time, the answer is yes. Maybe you'll fail. Maybe you'll get rejected. Maybe things won't go according to plan, but you'll survive. And once you understand that, fear loses much of its power. Because fear grows when we exaggerate consequences. Reality is usually far less frightening than imagination. One final thing, you don't need to solve every thought. You don't need to answer every question. You don't need to win every argument inside your head. Sometimes the healthiest response is simply, maybe. Maybe that fear is true. Maybe it isn't. Either way, you continue moving forward because life isn't lived inside your thoughts. Life is lived through action. So let's quickly summarize everything we've learned. Your brain overthinks because it's trying to protect you. Thoughts are not facts. Fighting thoughts makes them stronger. Certainty doesn't exist. Action creates clarity. Most people aren't paying attention to you. And the worst case scenario is usually survivable. The goal isn't to stop thinking. The goal is to stop letting your thoughts control your life. Because the best moments in life don't happen inside your head. They happen outside of it. So send the message, start the project, make the decision, take the first step, and remember, actually, stopping overthinking is easy. Thanks for watching.